If you've been around watches for any decent amount of time, you're probably starting to see a common theme. The stuff that was made back in the 60s, 70s and even 80s is making a comeback. But in saying that, many of the watches are also a hit and miss. Some are better than others. And this piece here in my hand is one of those pieces. And on first impressions, you can see similar DNA to watches like Hoya chronographs, Omega Speedmasters and Rolex Daytonas of the period. It also takes a very skilled design team to get the proportions, movements and all the elements just right. And this brand MAEN seems to be producing some really well made, intelligently designed watches recently. And this Mark III iteration of the Skymaster is no exception. Let's check it out. Now, I've never made it a secret that I love chronographs, especially well-made, practical and good-looking ones. And recently, I had a look at some of the new Zin 356s that have just been released. Also, a lovely bicompax from Habring, a well-renowned independent watchmaker, as well as some Baltic bicompax models. I like to handle watches in every price category. As long as I find them visually appealing or technically interesting, I try to get them in the hand. And this watch falls in both those categories. Now, MAEN has sponsored this video, so I will of course leave all the links in the description section so you can check out this watch or anything else that sparks your interest on their website. And although on first impression the watch looks extremely well built and designed, I had to really spend some time with it to find any little niggles that potentially could offer room for improvement. But I did manage to find 3 and I'll share those with you guys. But first cab off the rank, if we take a close look at the dimensions of this watch, you can see that it's appealing to the golden era of chronographs. It seems to be specced out beautifully. I see vintage Hoya Otavia or Carrera vibes, Omega Speedmaster and DeVille chronographs of the same period, and predominantly Paul Newman Daytona. And for some of us who are old enough to remember how things worked back then, the watch manufacturers used to assemble watches that looked very similar in the design language. Many of them shared the same movements, cases and parts that were available off the shelf. And that's why the watches of that generation, they all shared similar DNA. And even until recent years, well-established major brands have been using readily available Swiss ETA movements, stripping them down, adding their own personal finishing, regulation, customization, and they've been naming those movements their own caliber. But all that said, today, everyone seems to be going in the direction of in-house and so forth. But I digress. That's a video for another time. Getting back to this piece, when MAEN asked me if I wanted to get hands-on with this watch, my initial thoughts when looking at the renders on their website was promising. What I didn't expect was the watch in hand, on how good it looks and how well it's made. It's really something. Now, when I do get a watch like this in the hand, the first thing that I want to do is examine and critique the watch on a technical standpoint. See where its strengths are and where it falls short. And generally speaking, the higher priced watches seem to have less design flaws or downsides to them. But that's not always the case. And after handling this piece for the better part of a week, I feel that this watch's strengths are its looks, its build quality, excellent movement and its wearing experience. And on the wrist, as you can see, its footprint is harkening back to the vintage era, but with modern materials. It sits beautifully, even with those long lugs. They still keep the entire lug-to-lug distance down to 48mm. And that case height I measure at 13.6. But visually with its downturned sandblasted bezel, it actually feels thinner. So that's a really good achievement. And of course the comfort on this well-articulated bracelet has been top-notch. Now if we have a close look at that bracelet, it has female end links that drop straight down. The articulation is very good. It's secured by screw pins and features a fully milled swivel and clasp. It's been very comfortable on the wrist, especially with that taper from 20mm down to 16mm at the clasp. That's really helped heaps. But that said, the watch also looks the business with strap changes. I tried it on this newly released Artem strap and it feels and looks great. In fact, these new straps, they feature FKM rubber on the underside and sailcloth on the top. It's perfect companion for this watch, which has a 100 meters of water resistance. I mean, just look at it. These straps alone deserve a review for themselves. But again, I digress. Let's get back onto this watch. Next thing, if we look at the dial, it's a tri-register Panda layout. Looking at MAEN's website, they've actually got several configurations of this watch, with either a brushed ceramic bezel or a stainless steel option. They've got Panda, reverse Panda dials, really nice looking pieces. And they've also got this limited watchfinder edition that is only available for purchase between the 8th and the 16th of October. I think these models are designed to target the heartstrings of the racing enthusiast, the purist, and they seem to be bringing back a real nice feeling from a time period that we all seem to appreciate for its innovations. These are gorgeous. I especially like the treatment of that boxed dome sapphire crystal. The clarity has been excellent. The watch also features X1 Old Radium Superluminova, and for a chronograph it's legible, it's clean, it's not a lume monster, but for a chronograph I think it's more than sufficient. Now if I turn my attention to the watch's exhibition caseback, it's got a sapphire crystal which is showcasing a top grade Sellita SW510. It's a manual wind movement, it's adjusted in 5 positions, and has a healthy power reserve which seems to be a perfect fit for this genre of watch. It's a very accurate and reliable movement, so I think they've chosen well here. And just like a modern Omega Speedmaster, there's a nice nostalgic feel inputting into this piece with the feedback from that manual wind experience. Lastly, before I get onto the gripes, the price. The watch costs around €1,600, roughly $1,700 or 2,600 Australian. You do the conversion. And with the limited watchfinder version coming in at €1,800, these aren't inexpensive. So speaking about gripes, some might find that a little bit steep. But all things considered, I still think that these watches are a great value proposition. I mean, just look at this. It is absolutely beautiful to look at. So, on that note, what are my gripes of these watches? Firstly, the bracelet. Although I love its comfort and its articulation, I feel that it really would have benefited from quick release end links, just to make it easier for strap changes. Not that it's a deal breaker, just something there to mention. Secondly, I would have loved to see an on-the-fly micro-adjustable clasp here, as that would have been ideal, just to add more practicality in the overall wearing experience and comfort. And at this price point, it just would have made sense. My next niggle, having a highly polished silver handset with a light coloured dial. In certain lighting scenarios, you might need to look twice to get a gauge of that time. But even that has been few and far between, because the facets of the handset seem to have captured the light on different angles, which help deal with that problem. So there's not really much to complain there. And I think that's it. I really can't find any more technical faults on this watch. It seems to be well thought out and executed. That crown at 7.4mm has been a delight to wind in its usage. In my eyes, the watch is very pretty and well dimensioned. I think MAEN is a brand that is offering the enthusiast excellent value proposition in watches like this. And on an aesthetic perspective alone, these are delightful. Especially with that sandblasted tachometric scale. The readability has been as good, if not better, than any of the Omega Speedmasters I've owned over the years. And that's a really good job here. So well done. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Feel free to let me know your thoughts about this watch or this brand. What I have here in the hand is not disappointed in its quality feel, its execution, handling. It's a lot of eye candy here, especially for the motorsports and racing enthusiast. Just like me. Thanks for watching.